Okay, we're live. We're rolling. All right. Hello, I'm Vertiga Arbusto, and this is the Schumann Resonance Harmonics channel on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for being here. If you're new, welcome. Appreciate you being here. Please do like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if you wouldn't, after all of that, if it's not too much difficulty and trouble, please do hit the little bell and select the all notifications, or you are likely to get none of them. And that is not my funny kind of pitch. That's actually what will happen. Um, Facebook seems to have this algorithm all or none, uh, but the personalized ones don't seem to get much. And people have regularly complained to me and say in comments, I don't get notifications and there's nothing I can do. What I find is my experience is that if you interact with a channel more, you will are likely to get the notifications more. And so that's my humble suggestion from my experience. This is the third in a series of meditation and prayer and meditation. The first one was the abstract, which gave a basic synopsis, and then the previous one, which I premiered yesterday on the 18th, that which was 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 33 seconds in length. I managed to get it, and so that one dealt with the issue of meditation. So if you have not seen the at least the part one, please go and see that. In fact, go pause the video, go stop this video, go watch it right now, and then come back and see this one. All right. So probably tomorrow, come back and see this one. But if you're at the premiere here, stick around for this. Don't pause it. But if you're not at the premiere, go see the first one first. Okay. So on that confusing yet cheery note, we're going to move on to this one. All right, so this one's going to be a little different. They all have, all my videos have said this. If you know me, you know this. All my videos have a unique and interesting character to them. Even though there's a consistency to them, they're all have their own kind of, quirks to them. And as I've said before, I meditate before I do these, and because I need help. Even though if I have the script, I still need help to get the words out and to, tell a story. So what I'm going to do before I get into any of the material, I'm not going to play music as I might otherwise. There's a little passage. There's just about 2 minutes worth of talking that I want to I want to play. This is from a Rudolf Steiner video, and I listened to this and I'm like, I need to share this, but I don't want to share the whole thing. There's a part of it that's relevant to this. And the part of it that's relevant to this here, it talks about the built-in forgetter. And I'll go into this in time. But it really kind of had my head sort of, I don't want to say it had my head messed up, but it got me thinking. It got me thinking a lot about some stuff. And so I'm going to play the little 2 minutes from the Rudolf Steiner, and the link for this should be in the description.
It was repeated in that school again and again in many metamorphoses, inasmuch as the character of the ancient mysteries was again and again described, wonderfully clearly and visibly, not in supersensible imaginations. These only came at the beginning of the 19th century, but in supersensible inspirations. There was described what I have often been able to give here in a reflected radiance, the essence of the ancient mysteries. Then, too, they pointed to the future, to what was to become the new life of the mysteries. They pointed to all that was to come, though not in the way of the old mysteries, which had come to human beings who did not yet possess intelligence on earth, and who, accordingly, still had a dreamlike experience of supersensible worlds. They pointed to that new life of the mysteries, which we must now begin to understand in the realm of anthroposophy, and which is absolutely compatible with the full intelligence of man, the clear, light-filled intelligence. Let us now enter a little into the more intimate details of the teachings of that supersensible school, for they led to a knowledge of something of which only a kind of shadowy reflection has existed in the world conceptions of men upon the earth since the old Hebrew time and in the Christian era. It exists to this day, when a far deeper insight ought already to prevail, in the large majority of men only as a dim reflection out of old traditions. I mean the teaching about sin, about the sinful human being, the teaching about man who, at the beginning of human evolution, was predestined not to descend so deeply into the material realm as he has actually descended.
Okay, there's a lot there to wrap your head around. He talks about the super sensible world, which I will get into in a little bit. But he also talks about, I think, perhaps the most important part is he talks about the new mysteries. I don't know how to kind of explain this and couch it for someone to understand. That's why I say you got to, see part one of this. But even if you have seen part one and you have seen the abstract before that, this may be, a bit over your head. This may be difficult to wrap your head around, and I understand that. But we're talking about the new mysteries. Okay, there has been in the past mystery schools. There have been the mysteries, what they referred to as the mysteries. There was the Eleusinian mysteries, there's other mysteries, and there were cults that were built around the mysteries. As of course, there had to be to keep them perpetuated. And of course, it's a mystery what the mysteries were. However, we do know that there's a part of these esoteric teachings and esoteric schools that are reserved for a few. They're not meant for the average everyday person, because the average everyday person is not at a place of letting go of that which has been accumulated, the material goods of a person. Okay? People are too afraid to lose things, so they don't want to go to the edge. They don't want to test their luck. They don't want to do things that may put their life in jeopardy. Most people are at that point. That's the majority of folks. And if you disagree with that, feel free to put it in under comments. But the non-alcoholics, the non-risk takers are people that want to live within the boundaries and not push their luck, not push the edge of, the edge. They don't want to find the edge between life, the crack between the two worlds, between this life and the next world, the spirit realm. So where he's talking about the new mysteries, he's talking about the humans who have gone further down into the world of materialism than they were predestined to. Another way to put it is humans, through their own free will, or lack of acting on an individual free will and just going along with everything humans have of their own free will, sunk worse down than they were supposed to. So if you've been here for many, 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 many lifetimes, you might think, oh, that's a bit harsh. Well, I don't. But if you're a volunteer and you're new here and it's your first lifetime here, or you haven't been here that long, yeah, That's why it is so difficult here. That is why, singly why, it is so much more difficult here than in regular third density, where you would be normally in third density to transmogrify, transition from the physical into the etheric, where normally it wouldn't be this difficult. It's exceedingly difficult here because of the amount's magnitude of how far down, how far off the track humans have gotten, how far into the realm of the universe of materialism that modern humans have gotten. So after hearing that, things made a lot more sense, and it gave me kind of, oh well, I don't know about you, but it gave me a kind of renewed vigor of why this is important, of why this message needs to get out, why it's important for people to start on a pathway of meditation and get out of the material matrix of, oh, well, it's pointless and we're all alone here. And that also includes the matrix of the head in the jar on a shelf somewhere. Right? That's part of the deception that comes with the age, that comes with Aronmix. And it's really important. I put this right where it belongs, that it is the incarnation of Aronmix coming in that is allowing for a lot of this dehumanization of people through intellect, through intelligence, and through individualized personality. The ultimate expression of personality, who I am. That's so fabulous. Look at me, how fabulous I am. These kind of personality things. And there's more to it, but that's the basic threefold nuts and bolts to that. All right. All right. So this is let me just review, I think, or actually, you know what? 12 minutes, almost 13 minutes into this. Let me play some music. All right. Let's see what we got. Oh, please. Okay, I think I got something here. Looks like it. All right. So yeah, so that was pretty heavy getting out of the gate. So let's play some music, have a smoke, grab a coffee, ruminate, because I remember as well.
Things used to be.
For those of you who may remember home, and home is not Earth, brighter days. Keep keep hope alive in your heart. Keep home alive in your heart. Don't let anyone take it from you. That's where I'm at today. That's where I have to remember is home is where my heart is, and that may or may not be here on this planet. All right, so let's get into this. I'm just going to give a review. I kind of like doing these, or you may not have seen the other videos. That's fine. So let me kind of catch up to. This may be your first video that happens, right? You know, Wages World keeps sending people over. This is the one that's on, spinning on the turntable as you come into the room. This is the mix you're gonna get. So, all right. Um, so I've been working on this since the 10th, essentially, or like the 9th, actually. Technically the 9th. I put the 10th because it was late in the 9th. Um, so so this has been a week. This is what my week is about, how where my week is spent. Check in with me on how where you spent your week. What'd you do? And this is part of the Lifeboat series. I mentioned what the Lifeboat series is. It's the same basic um drive that Tommy Scoville, his lifeboat. He spells his two words. It's lifeboat, which is a little different emphasis on mine. My word's just one word, lifeboat, because it's a boat that brings you life. Oh, please. So we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to help addicts in recovery. He's the captain of his ship. I'm the captain of my boat. But we're working with people who are in recovery. Right? Like that's what the lifeboat is, right? And I explained more specifically about what the lifeboat is to me, and what, basically the channel. This channel and talking with you have been my lifeboat. And thank you for being here. Thank you for those who have supported me from the beginning and those who are continuing to support me now. If you're new here, I have a beautiful group, the Verde's Terrific 10, who are the 10 people who are here the most often and comment and who are here and just keep showing up and who are learning something, and they're very able to kind of feed me back something that they've learned from what I've said, right? That's really important to me, that someone's learned something from this, and I already have at least one person who's benefited. There's 10. So what about the 10? All right. So it's not just one, there's 10 people, and that 10 changes. There's some people who've been there for a while, but then there's some who kind of drift out and they're not along and it's not around as much, and they don't get internet in Alaska, for example, where they are. They moved, so someone kind of drifts into their place, and they stay around for a while. Like Bonnie was here for a wonderful while, and she helped buy my, support my studio, got me the mixing board and the microphones, her and Jackie. But she's not around. Some, like, all right, I don't know what happened to Bonnie. Much love to her. He's still in my thoughts and in my prayers, but she's an honorary person in there anyway. So that's what, anyway, the lifeboat, whatever. I've talked about this before. I appreciate you being here, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. I assure you. I don't mean that theoretically. No, literally, quite literally. If you wasn't anyone here gaining something from this, or the 10 of you, I wouldn't be doing this. Both of these. All right. So anyway, so the first one was the abstract. The second one I dealt with meditation. Both of these practices are important, but you can't replace one for the other. You can't replace just meditation in prayer in place of prayer and meditation, right? They're two different circuits, and I explain this. Meditation is simply mindfulness. Prayer is simply making a request, right? At its core essence, the two words, that's essentially what they mean. But what does mindfulness really mean? And how do I make my request? Why isn't meditation itself a substitution for prayer and meditation? All right, and I explained there are two different circuits. One is the DC circuit of consciousness, and the other is the AC circuit of consciousness. DC is direct current. AC is alternating current, which is essentially a wave. Exercising free will against the built-in forgetter is an act of meditation, and I explained what the built-in forgetter is. Although the introduction I gave, where it talks about the material mankind, humans sinking into the material realm, the swamp or the abyss of the material realm, too farly into the material realm is essentially the built-in forgetter for all of us, for all of human race. Okay, but for the alcoholics and addicts, for us, it gets specialized to alcohol and drugs and the effect that they had on us. The built-in forgetter is that we forget the effect that the chemicals had on us and the negative effects. And that subsequently means that we'll forget where it will take us in the future. You know, we believe that it'll be different this time. I think that's the short way to put that. The built-in forgetter, you know, like I said, the little introduction blurb in the beginning explained that, but essentially, humanity comes with the built-in forgetter, which is the genetic material itself. 7% of me is what comprises my free will. The rest of it, the rest of my genetic material, my genetic structure, 93% of it that is shared by all of us is that built-in forgetter. 7% of my free will, which is the coding DNA, that's my individuality, that is what remembers. And sometimes the 7% part of my free will can't be offset by the 93% of the genetic material that hurts, that's in pain from the previous trauma of lifetime of family abuse. Right? These are all things I've talked about in the other videos. And in not just the previous one before this, but in other videos as well. I've been starting to talk about this relative to the Lifeboat series. So what I'm talking about here isn't, the 93 and the 7%, 93%, 7%. This is not new relative to this. This is something I've talked about up to this point. Addiction at its core is a void in my spirit and heart, my heart and my spirit. I work to fill this space, this void, with material things as the natural course of existence in Earth School. Alcohol and drugs are a thing with a spirit which works diligently to fill the gaping hole in my heart. So the addiction itself is an intelligent thing, like a parasite. Maybe it's a brain worm, perhaps not, but it's not something that you can remove from you. There's not a way you could operate it out of your head. It isn't an actual worm. There's it's not a physical thing that can get removed. It's a longing, a void. It's a distance that's in my heart that comes with the body of living in the suit, the physical suit of this body. All right, so I talk about following the pathway of the heart. The love of one addict for another might act as this type of invisible force. Compassion for one's fellow sick and suffering addict or alcoholic or just a sick and suffering person is a pathway with heart. Helping someone to get through, make it through their sickness, helping someone to alleviate their pain is a pathway to heart. And especially, right, especially if it's something that you know will ultimately keep you from going through a similar path. That's love in action in my view. That's compassion. It literally is. And especially to the extent to which some of us help those who might otherwise seem hopeless. Uh, if it is not my will, nor myself or my will, then who or what am I handing over control to if I give control over to a power greater than myself? Well, let me ask you this. If there are such time, I explained this. All right. Let me try to figure out the words of how I'm going to start this. I explained in, I explained the other video. I very small, simply. I didn't talk much about this, but the superpositioning of the will over the action that a person, and it's not just to do with drinking or drugs, but it has to do with numerous things. A person can act in such a way that's different from what they think or they feel they believe. And they act in a way that might actually be harmful to themselves or to someone else, but they might be able to justify it, or they try not to think about it or something. Um, so that's a general condition of humans. What do I mean specifically? It is possible that you can drink and still have a desire not to drink. Okay, superpositioning, quantum physics. All right, so it is entirely possible you can drink against your will. We talk about this. That expression. There's an expression. First, the man takes the drink, and then the drink takes a drink, and then lastly, the drink takes the man. This is the progression. It's cunning, it's baffling, it's powerful, it's a progression. It is not, um, it doesn't play fair. If it was you in control of the drinking, right? Just, all right, so you don't have to, right? We ask, oh, if I, turn my will over to a higher power, right? This is the question. This is the the primary question, the primary issue that people have about turning their will over to a power greater than themselves. They say, well, who am I, who's that? Who am I turning my will over to? All right, well, let me ask you this. If you don't think there's a positive power greater than yourself, if you're drinking against your will, or you made a promise that you wouldn't drink and you did anyway, knowing you can't control it, knowing how dangerous it is. The doctor said if you drink again, you might die, and you did anyway. What's in control? Is that really your will to end your life early? Are you in control of yourself if you're looking to end your life early? Who is in control of your decision making at that point? You have to think about that. I had to give that a lot of thought. If I choose, I could choose to drink. I could choose to drink. I could choose to stop to drink. When I drank, I said that. Oh, I'll stop when I choose. I could stop if I want to, and I didn't. And I went to court, and they made me stop drinking. Probation made me. You're only faced with jail. All right. Well, I guess jail isn't. Jail is not a good option. All right. So you stop drinking for court, but then you don't have that commitment anymore. There's not, you don't have a probation officer checking over you. All right, then what? Then are you free to drink? You went to jail over drinking. Are you really free to drink? like, no, it'll be better this time. I'm not drinking vodka, I'll just drink beer. Uh, Right? So these are compromises we make to keep holding on to the thing that is hurting us, that's damaging us, as an excuse for why it's okay for me to do the thing that's killing me. One of the reasons, one of the ways that we justify why we do what we do. Because the fact of the matter is, there's someone else in our head running the show, the gerbils that are on the wheel running, the committee that's all agitated because we're not taking care of it. So we're going to take a drink and drown out the voices in the head. The trauma that we have, we can't resolve because we can't let it go. All of these things, the committee that's up there in their head beating us up, these are all things that are talking to us before a drink. So if I know going into this that if I have a drink that I'm going to lose all control, yet I pretend to make that willing choice. Oh yeah, it'll thinking somehow I'm in control. It'll be different this time. Who is really in control of that? Right? If you take your hands off the wheel, you're in the driver's seat, you take your hands off the wheel. That's basically what drinking is. I'm driving, I take my hands off the wheel, right? And hope that my car doesn't go off the road. I'm not, hopefully, that analogy is understandable. That if I'm allegedly in control and yet I give up that control, I'm not actually in control. After a couple of drinks, I was not in control of the drinking anymore. And so I that's where I'm at. That's where I was left. That is what control and drinking for an alcoholic is you're taking your hands off the wheel and no longer being in control. So it's not my will, it's not my presence of mind, it's something else making that decision. So it's the alcohol making the decision for me. And the alcohol is called spirits. Right? They're distilled spirits. And yes, that's what's happening. It's of its nature, it is volatile. Of its nature, it evaporates rather rapidly. Alcohol itself evaporates rapidly because it is volatile. It is a volatile. It's explosive. It'll catch fire. Um, it's a complex. Alcohol is a very complex molecule. It's got a very profound chemical composition to it. Um, so that's the question. If you don't think there is a power greater than yourself, then who's taking the drink for you? If you know it's going to bring you, it's going to take you to jail. You have a child, a protective order, or there's uh, what do you call it? Oh, good golly, I'm trying to think of the other one, or other court action or whatever. Something where you've been told what to do because of the drinking, right? If knowing that, and you still have a drink or a hit anyway, knowing it's going to bring you harm, knowing it's going to bring you damage, or it's going to hurt someone else, uh, by taking you out of the equation, probation is going to violate you, for example. Then who is taking the drink for you? Okay, so uh, that's this all comes to the question of what is awareness. As an addict in recovery, my full attention needs to be here in this moment, in the now, in the presence of this moment, or else I am reliving a trauma from this morning or earlier than that I have not, could be resentment, something I have, something I have not resolved will come back up for review. And then my resolution for a, a, not a drink will also come back up for review as well. My will and my intention need to be focused on this moment, the here, or I relive all sorts of trauma. All right. Third density is the world of forms. The world of forms is essentially the veil of Maya, or the veil of forgetting. Through this forgetting, I lose my contact with my higher self and my oversoul. All right. But ultimately, through Prime Source Creator. All right. All right. So that was just a review, simple review of what I've done already and what I've talked about. And there's a lot more to that, but you can't include everything in the review. It's like, no, you gotta watch the first video. All right. So let's put some music on. Hold, please. All right, we got music here somewhere. Hold, please. Yeah. for a landing. Right on. Right as rain. Indeed we are. All right. Okay. I was clicking away. Ready? Yeah, got that. All right. Welcome back. Thank you. Taking a deep breath. Okay. We're here. We're live. All right. Oh, I just want to say here, like, it's a brownie. See, it's not any special kind of brownie. It's just a thank you brownie that I got from the woman who works at Wise Guys, a local restaurant downtown. Or not really downtown, but close enough to downtown. It's the only one that's open at like 3 a.m. They make deliveries. And the woman, I forgot her name, I should remember. But when I go in there, she says you're like a breath of fresh air. So I talked to her. And when they ask me my name in all these places, it's Mr. Fabulous. So I get a free brownie. That's what that was. A thank you for being a breath of fresh air. And oh, and she was frazzled. She asked me if I knew someone who wanted to be a cashier, and pays well enough. But I'm like, the problem with being a cashier is with the management, not with the cashiering. The problem is with the management being too funny around their money. And they give the cashiers a hard time when sales don't go correctly and people cancel and food is made and there's no order properly, blah, 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 blah. Oh, hell no. Hell no. The one thing among all companies that's the same is the people who handle the money are under the most pressure. Give me a job where I do not have to handle money except from the person paying me for a fair day's labor for a fair day's pay. That's all that I've had jobs where I handled money and I don't want to do it again. So when she said that, I said, no, I will pray for you, however. As you do this job, this thankless job, thank you, I told her. So it's one of the ways, an attitude of gratitude keeps a drink away, And so I'm grateful for the people that bring me my food, who deal with a boss that I wouldn't want to deal with, couldn't deal with. Anyway, so that's a little bit of my personal life, and just thought I would share that with you. It's nice to be, because I need that. I need someone to say, "Oh my God, you're a breath of fresh air." It's nice to have someone in life say that. I have people online who say that in my virtual life, and like, that's very nice. I appreciate that. That's wonderful. But having someone who you've actually made their life brighter through just smiling and telling her some jokes and little things, sometimes it makes a big difference. You don't have to be. People say, "What can one person do?" I don't know. Why don't you try and tell some jokes to people? You'd see what the difference one person can do. And not something stupid, or unless you're telling people a stupid joke, knowing it's a dumb joke, and you tell people you make a joke out of the dumb joke. Like, all right, like, that's corny and shit, but like, you made it work because of the facial expressions or whatever. And so that's one of the lessons that I've learned here doing this, is you got to present it with humor. If you, I forget who it is that said this expression. If you're going to tell the people the truth, you better tell it to them with a smile, or they will kill you. So I believe that to be the case. Hold on, I think my coffee's calling me. Oh, and I almost forgot the picture of the crazy goddess with the severed heads. That's Kali, my girl Callie. And there's a wonderful story with that. I'm not going to tell it here, but I think I will tell it. Maybe that'll be a Halloween story. I don't know. I'll have to ask my guides on that. But everything there is symbolic. So you have to look at it that way. There's the process. That is part of the process of becoming, is getting cut off here at the throat chakra, getting cut off, right? Stop talking, right? It's the severed head. So I'll tell you among the other things that are there that I won't tell you about. What I will tell you about is the severed heads represent a man, uh, is the talking, right? Just blah, 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 talking, an empty-headed talking, right? The head on a head in a jar on a shelf attitude, yeah, that's that. The Callie with her sword cuts that off rapidly, with her lascivious tongue that hangs out unapologetically. Um, and so that's essentially what that represents is the lies, cutting off, the goddess cutting off the lies of man, the unthinking words, the inability of the words to carry feelings and emotions with them. All right. So again, well, I think I'll tell that story some other time. The longer version of that story, because it's good to know that. And actually, I think one of Activation Goddess, I think she did. Maybe I'll find that the um, the story she does about explains about Callie. All right. Okay, so let me read about this video here. The preface. This work is part of the. I explain this. It's part of the Lifeboat Series, which is directed towards assisting addicts and alcoholics in recovery. This is not necessarily for those who are on the fence about their commitment. So if you're not sure if you're an alcoholic or an addict, this isn't necessarily directed toward you. Okay. This may or may not apply to you, but certainly this is geared toward the alcoholic and the addict. Then the topic of this video is prayer and meditation, specifically prayer and meditation. Not from a denominational perspective, like say Buddhist or even Christian or any of that, but through the experience of those who have been to the other side and today live an organized, fairly impeccable lifestyle. This is for the advanced class and those who are not comfortable being in the middle of the herd, so to speak. We address this through scientific and the technical facet of electromagnetics. The human entity is a component of the electromagnetic circuit of Gaia, which is the living, intelligent planet, which also serves as earth ground. And I've used the expression earth ground relative to Schumann resonances, relative to atmospheric electromagnetics of the DC, the lower DC current of the earth ground. The universe of thought forms is a superpositioning over the actual real world phenomenological universe in which we are genetically, chemically, physically embedded through the expression of the genetic material of the planet herself, Gaia, the living planet. Humans are the nerves and biological feeling of the planet, along with other feeling entities of the animal kingdom simultaneously. So the animals have feelings, humans have feelings, we all have feelings, and even the tree, the plants have a feeling set, a sensory input feeling sense. It's different yet similar to humans. There is a greater reality happening beyond apparent evidence of our senses. A lot of negative emotions and emotional ballast or baggage gets accumulated in the lower parts of our physical being. Before we can get any elevation, before I can get any elevation or spiritual growth, I need to clear out the lowest densities I have accumulated within my genetic material, which is the physical body itself. To clear these obstructions is one of the benefits of meditation when regularly practiced. There is no meditation form specifically directed toward the addict in recovery, although there does seem to be innumerable texts and literature on this topic relative to established world religions and wisdom traditions. All right, so prayer meditation, certainly in meditation you can find all sorts of literature from all over the place on meditation, from Buddhist to Christian. It is its own world. In the program, where are we? The program, we have no conflicting ideology against borrowing from these traditions, making sure to give credit to them for their contribution, holding nothing specifically as our own from my experience. We hold spiritual principles. We might meditate. All right, let me try that again. We hold spiritual principles which we might meditate upon if we are of the more advanced type of student. So if you're one of the advanced ones, you'll have meditation that you'll do as part of your spiritual practice. And you will likely have developed your own, from wherever. And this is sort of what we're talking about. Yet, we summarily realize the totality of these traditions themselves were unable to keep us sober and free from the compulsion to use. Religion is for those who do not want to go to hell. Spirituality is for those who've been there already. The path of the spiritual warrior is one closest to the edge. Spiritual warrior is the being who has outlived their death. This is how I'm describing a spiritual warrior. You've outlived your death. It is the one of walking between two worlds. You may have actually died and then come back, or certainly you've seen death. You've seen your friends die, like these sort of things. Life in society is difficult, confusing, yet seemingly pointless. Yet, death won't keep me because I apparently have another pathway. Death, as my advisor, tells me I have a reason for being here today, in this form, in this place. It is, perhaps, the greatest meaning behind my prayers, meditations, to be revealed to us what is our individual pathway. Specifically, why am I still here in this form? It's a question I ask regularly. Why do I still need to be here in this form? The question, okay, so I ask that. The question is received on their end by my guides as, show me how I can best be a light to the lost and suffering. That's what gets shown to me. I know this because that's how my question gets answered. I am reminded daily the benefit of my explanations of very technical things in a manner that's fairly easy for the average person to digest. For opening up to others those things revealed to me while in meditation, there is a huge amount of gratitude from others who have experienced awakenings, etc., from what I've said. People who've gained some just from hearing me talk, what I've said, what I speak about. They've had things opened up, and you can read it in the comments and in the live chat where people talk about this. When I go off topic, or off the script, maybe not necessarily off topic, but off script, we'll say. When I go off script, I have said things that were revelations to people, and people have thanked me for going off script. All right, so I don't feel so bad if I get maybe a little lost and I'm seeming dead end, because apparently I'm going to meet someone there who is lost, and I am able to bring them back to, civilization. So, my getting lost manages to find someone or to help someone find their way. Um, don't hide don't hide your light under a bushel or under a barrel, I think they say. Uh, if it was revealed to me, I need to share this with others, specifically the tribe of my people. Right? So this is what was explained to me, that I ask because I know to ask. I know how to ask. I know who to ask. I know what. And I ask, knowing I'll get an answer. I have the assurance of having listened so many times that I know when I have the answer. But I still need confirmation. And so that's another thing as well. Right. Um, so because it's been revealed to me, it's important for me to open this up to others, to the public, so others can benefit from this who don't know how to ask, or who wouldn't ask, or who wouldn't otherwise think to ask, or who don't know that they're supposed to ask, and would or who would ask a human and get whatever answer they get. You'll get what you get asking a human because they don't know to ask. So if you ask someone who themselves doesn't know to ask and they just, you know, whatever, it's the whatever clusterfuck of humanity. The blind leading the dumb. Forget I said that. Erase, erase, erase. So, so it it's important that because I get good solid information because I go right to the source. Um, and I granted we're all kind of deaf, dumb, and blind here. We're all kind of fumbling around in the dark and all of this. But I ask because I want to know. Right? It's that simple. And so because it's been revealed to me freely, literally quite freely, I have to open that up to people as well. It's just part of the process. And as I move things along, and then people ask me about them, things start make ideas and concepts make more sense to me upon talking with people, reflecting on the logical components to what it is. As I talk and put things together for people, it helps it to make more sense to me. Things click in place for me, more in place for me. And so that's why it's important for me to discuss this stuff to you, so it latches it into my head and it makes more sense to me. All right. So, and just like, I'm reminded about the benefits. It's like the woman with the brownie. It's like I get these periodic reminders from people that they benefit from, they appreciate what I have to say, they benefit from what I have to say. And it's the same thing with everyone. If you don't close off people, uh, and you maybe spend an extra minute or two with people to listen to what they have to say, don't be impatient. Um, these kind of things that exercise spiritual principles, then maybe your life will go better. Don't be impatient. Wait, let someone else go in front of you in line. Uh, don't hold on to getting in and out as quick as possible. Right? These are things that are revealed to me that help help me to live in the moment, stay in the moment. All right. So on that cheery note, let's play some music here. And so we got. What do we got? Oh, I like it. Okay, we're back. Very nice. Nicely done. Okay. I'm here. Haven't gone anywhere. All right. I remind myself here when I look at this, all right, I'm recording. This is the moment, my stated clear intention. Okay, part two. We're now into the meat and potatoes of this, as it were. Prayer meditation, defining a higher power, the God of the program. Boop, boop. I personally like to explain to people that the program is a mystery school, not a religion. In the beginning, Steiner was talking about the new mysteries, and so this is sort of where we're at. And I will say this, that it was my opinion that the program was a mystery school before I had heard um, that essay, right? The lecture. That's actually a lecture that he gave back in 1935 or 24 or something back then. So that's like almost 100 years old, just for the record. So when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's definitely where we're at right now. It's a mystery school, not a religion. A religion requires you to believe in an ultimate creator of the universe and their version, their personality of the creator of the universe. It's not what the program is. We do not debate the creator of the universe, nor do we demand anyone believe in such a being. This is something that everyone is encouraged to find on their own. And we have principles, we have traditions that are geared toward keeping that intact as such. And we even say, find where the people of those spiritual traditions were correct. In order for a spiritual program of recovery to work properly, the addict in recovery needs to accept a power greater than him or herself. This can be difficult when the other available religions are trauma-based, or they impose what seem to be arbitrary rules on people, and there's many people that come into the program with a background in trauma-based religions. The nuns that hitch on um, the knuckles, or brothers of some of these schools that beat up the kids or whatever, for stepping out of line or slapping them, or corporal punishment or capital punishment as a result of an infraction of a rule. So when I talk about trauma-based religions, that's what I'm talking about. The ones who physically inflict pain on you for a breach of the rules, of the imposition of the rules. And so that's the difference between a culture of spirituality and a religion. We can confuse religion with the path of spirituality. As I said this before, religion is for those who are afraid of hell. Spirituality is the path for those who have been there. There are potentially innumerable spiritual pathways that a person can take while pursuing a lifetime within sobriety. Spirituality itself does not necessarily come in one particular form, yet there are forms that further strengthen the attachment. Spelled wrong. The attachment to the physical realm through mindlessness and one's inattention to the task at hand. So there are sloppy forms that are not bringing you mindfully aware of where you are. Instead, instead of steps, if we look at these practices as doorways, the third doorway is your design, is where you get to design your own conception of a higher power. This is where I start to develop the features and accessories of a God of the program. Oop, where am I? God of the program, quote unquote. The program is pantheistic for itself. It has no personal deity to call its own, excepting for the acronym of God, G-O-D. Through practicing our spirituality, we are left to develop our own conception of a caring, loving higher power. Again, we are not asking for anyone to nail down a creator God concept unless that is what you choose. It's not being opposed on you. The spiritual path offers the widest possible doorway for a person to go through. A practice of spiritual life is to tap into forces around us to assist us in the work that we do, like the sky elementals. The program offers a God, G-O-D, which are three principles to substitute for a more personal working higher power. So in other words, unless you have something that's more workable, or until you get something more workable, there are three power levels of God, depending on where you're at coming into the program. The first one is gift of desperation. That is when you first come in, when they first comes into the program, they first come into the rooms, they first come into the program, and they're desperate. They've reached bottom. They've hit bottom. They've perhaps been scraped along bottom for a while. They've been rolled around the bottom, kicked, rolled around the bottom. Expression that I've heard is a bottom feeder, but essentially, until a person hits bottom, you cannot, until you find a bottom, I'll put it this way, either the bottom hits you or you hit it, but the bottom finds you. Until then, a person could go on indefinitely bouncing along the bottom. Right? It's the expression we use is bottom feeder. That's I think a great way of putting that. That you don't realize that you're done with the race. Everyone around me sees that I'm done. I should be done. Yet I think I can make it work one more time. That's kind of skipping along the bottom. And until I'm stopped, I'm literally stopped by the police or the psych ward or some such, and I'm forced to look at this, I will keep skipping along bottom as long as I can. So the gift of desperation is essentially, I don't want to be where I was yesterday, the day before I came into the program. The gift of desperation is coming to in an emergency room, being revived in the emergency room, being, coming out of a blackout and lockup, and them telling you some awful news. And then you're not going to be released from lockup anytime soon. And you find AA meetings in jail. Right? That's the gift of desperation. Coming into a meeting with a court slip to be signed, or you go to jail, like that's the gift of desperation. And anyone can have that. In fact, most people, when they first come into the program, have that. Most people are not willingly jumping into the program thinking, oh yeah, well, my life is so good, this will just make it better. Most people are thinking, I don't have any other choice. And in fact, if they did have one more option, they would try that before, the program. And that's what I tell people. If you got any other options, try them first. Right? I share that in meetings. I tell people, the newcomer, if you're not sure, try whatever other options you think you have first, right? Make this the last stop. Come here with the assurance of knowing this is the last stop, and you will do much better. But if you're not sure that you've hit bottom yet, maybe you need to do a little more research to convince yourself. Only you can't, no one can diagnose this for you. Only you can diagnose it for yourself. All right. So that's the gift of desperation. Waking up in a dumpster. Waking up behind a dumpster. Mm-hmm. Coming to in lockup, being revived in the emergency room. These are all prime A number one candidates for the gift of desperation. All right. And then if you manage to stick around and you realize I have hit bottom and that I just don't want to go back to where I was, gets worn a little thin, it's time to upgrade to the next power level up, and that is a group of drunks. You don't, how do we say this? You don't have to believe, just believe that we believe. Right? You don't have to know. A person does not need to know anything greater than it works if you work it. Stick around. Don't quit before the miracle. First things first. Right? These are spiritual principles that if you apply them to your life, it will start working. The program works if you work it. It's that simple. If you don't know what the work is, stick around and it will be shown to you. The first thing is stick your hand out, greet someone at the door. And that door may be here in the chat. It may be over at Tommy's show. It may be someone at the bus stop who is reeking of booze. You don't know where the door is going to appear. It's just going to appear one day, at some point. But you have to be there, ready for it when it does. And that is the group of drunks is me being there, present for the miracle to happen. That I can't show up late and leave early and expect to find the miracle there from that. I have to show up early, leave late, hand out, greet the newcomer, greet someone that's new in the family, be there present, be there not just in my body, but be present. Don't be distracted. Don't bring distractions in. These are all principles to go by when it's time to be present with my people and my tribe, right? That I need to be there for the person just coming in. Right? That's what the group of drunks is. That's what that means. We're holding a candle for you when you can't hold a light for yourself. We're holding a seat for you when no one else wants to see you. We are holding love for you when you can't hold it for yourself. And as I've mentioned before, I've said this before, love itself can act as a suitable higher power. Love itself that one addict has for another is a suitable substitution for a living, breathing higher power that cares, that knows, that cares about you. This is the group of drunks. We're holding a seat for you when you can't hold one for yourself. Hold love for you when you can't hold it for yourself. And believing in the power of the group of drunks, that us being here every day and talking over our vulnerabilities and our hurt and our pain, this is what unifies us, and this is what makes us better. This is what helps heal us. It's a type of confession. Like all places of healing have that. Even to the doctor in the hospital, people will confess things to the doctor. Like, I have to tell you, doc, that's why there's a doctor-patient privilege in the doctor's office that um, is private, and that's a legal right. You have a right to your lawyer, and then there's a right to medical consultation, like these kind of things, and that your visit with your doctor is legally protected. Okay, I just got a text from a friend of mine who wants to see me, and I had to let her know. Oh, this was the friend who, oh my God, this is the one who I went to rescue from Chepachet. I got lost. She sent me the wrong address. She's speaking to me, and so when I asked her, is this the address? To confirm, yeah, that's it. So it turns out, no, it wasn't, and she doesn't drive. So it turns out she gave me the wrong address. It wasn't Putnam Heights, it was Putnam Pike. Then the pin didn't arrive until way later. And by then I had already put in the Uber ride, and it was a clusterfuck, and it was a good chunk of money. So that person there wants to hang out with me. And so, no, I said, no, I'm not hanging out with you, honey. I have a video that I need to make. And then after this, I am going to go to bed because it's 12:12 a.m. and I have to get up tomorrow and work. Because quite honestly, I need to make up for the money I lost in the crazy venture and the sightseeing. It wasn't really enjoyable. It was 40 minutes out into the woods, and I didn't really see anything. It's just the woods. It's Rhode Island. There's not really much to see there except woods. And when I got there, it was like a DOT station. And no, it was like, no, I went to see a friend of mine camping, and that didn't happen. And so it was just disappointing. So, no, you're kind of on loss of recreation with me for now, for the next week anyway, till I make up the whatever. I don't even want to talk about it anyway. So the when I was talking about the video at the end of it, going to see my friend, yeah, that was a bust. I'll just say that. I have a species dysphoria. I'll tell you that much. All right. So that's anyway. I think I was at the end of that group of drunks. I explained that thoroughly. And then if you've been around for a while and you get the concept of being a worker among workers, a partner among partners, as being one of the group of drunks, all right, then the next one up, your next power level you have before things get a little bit boring and you get complacent with that, it's time to shift gears into the next power level of good orderly direction. And that is where you start taking control of the things in your life that require good orderly direction, and you align those to the will of your higher power. What it would like for you in your life, according to the contract that you signed before you incarnated into this lifetime. And that is the good orderly direction of your life. You cut out the waste, the ballast, you get a good routine that isn't boring, and yet it's stable enough to be sustainable. You do some new fun things. You have some friends and social life. You're balanced across the board. That's basically what good orderly direction is that all of the major points of your life, the 7 or 8 or 9 major points of your life, you have your job, you have your relationship, then you have your wife, herself, then you have your kids, There's your family itself, and then you have the individual relationship you have those with them. You might not have a kid, but maybe you have a pet. You know, I have with me, I don't have a family, but I do have my website. You know, I do have the Schumann Resonances platform. So that requires a number of, you know, things across the board that I have to pay attention to. Um, and me maintaining that, posting that, because people are getting something from it. It's not just something I do for money, but it's a value I give to people through doing this. That there is maybe a little money involved in it, that I can maybe meet my expenses, but that's not why I'm doing this. It's not why we are doing this. It's the giving back to people. Right? That's sort of what good orderly direction is there, that you're there for people because they need it, and you're not really expecting much if anything back from the effort, but you're doing it because it needs to get done. Uh, so that's part of, you know, like taking the responsibility of doing something because it needs to get done. You know, that's what service in the program is at its core, is the good orderly direction of making sure the doors stay open for the next sick and suffering addict who needs to come to the doors, who needs the program. All right, so I think I explained them. All right, so these are, when we talk about the God of the program, generally speaking, this is, you know, we have the acronyms here, and it's a good representation. Um, you know, and I'm only speaking from my perspective, and this is what I understand of the program. I'm not speaking for the program, but since everyone has to speak on their own behalf of their own experience on the program in order for it to move along, right? This is my experience, and this is what I found. In my, oh, good golly, I have a lot of years involved in the program. At this point, I have this latest round. I'm at almost 10 years, and before that, I was doing it uh, carousel style, rotisserie style, in and out and in and out. It was round and around the program. I was never really in it. And so, you know, for my years of just being around it, and my also years of being in it, involved in it, this is what I found. So this is me speaking on my experience with the program. All right, so you know what? This might be a good time to play a few minutes of music. Let me see what we got here. Actually, no, hold on. Okay, yeah, I had this one marked with a star on my playlist, my set list. So this is I think the name of this is "You Turn Me On." I don't know, but that's the chorus anyway. Indeed, you turn me on. I appreciate that, folks. Thank you. You do turn me on. Okay, I'm back. I wanted to kind of pause there, um, kind of before I went into this next bit. Principles before principles before personalities. All right. Uh, I mentioned before, or maybe I should um, write in here and as a review what I have already said elsewhere. All right, so if you're new here, okay, so let me go over something I've already said before. There's a difference between personality and self. Okay, I talked about this the last video. And I think I should probably do a video on this or just extract that part. It's one of those things maybe I should extract out of the video. Um, if I haven't said this before, thank you for being here. I appreciate your coming, your support, your love, your comments, good or bad. But I appreciate the good comments much better. And if you ask me a question and you end your statement with a question mark, I will answer it. So, all right, the difference between personality and self. There is two concepts that come up in the spiritual work of the human. And this can take a lifetime of learning to really understand this fine point between the two and what one is and what the other is. Um, Personality is, and my guides have been working with me on the last few days about personality, what personality really is, all right, relative to what we're doing here. All right. So personality is basically, it's your spirit, your life force, the exuberance of your life force that is solidified into a material substance, some type. And technology is probably involved in that somehow. A denim jacket with pins on it, a leather jacket, leather vest, uh, rich Corinthian leather, um, uh, a look, a style, being part of the scene. These are all part of personality. This is all part of the individualization of self apart from the group. Uh, this is generally powered by ego. If you think of ego as a power, I like to think of ego as a lens that people perceive things through. Ego being a lens through which the light of consciousness may shine, so that it can do a number of things for an individual that could be protective. You put up some boundaries in a world that's dangerous. It's ego is an understandable thing of protecting myself. However, if there's no protection about one, and it's we're at a relatively low point where we've tamed and domesticated a lot of stuff, then what happens is that the ego wants to externalize itself ever more gradually so that it's establishing its protective space externally, not internally, as saying me or mine, myself, but this is now it's a process, it's a pursuit, it's a possession. Personality is a possession of a material form in place of, or in extension of, or uh, in in substitution for the life force of the individuality of what makes me unique on the inside. right? My thoughts, my, whatever, my thoughts, my feelings, all this stuff. So that's personality. That's the externalization of myself. Whereas self is an inviolate concept as a being. We are possessed of an ego, self-defensive mechanism that is not a physical thing. Ego isn't a physical thing, but it is recognized. We do recognize a physical limitation to um, our personal space. And so ego is a means of recognizing that something is coming within our personal space. So as a protective mechanism, ego is there, but there's a difference between the sense of I and mine or me as a self. Self is part of whole. Right? Self is me identifying as part of a group and not the leader of that group, if you will. Right? Self is me established in a place as part of the group. So these are two concepts that can work together, or maybe they don't, or maybe right, there's a large area in there where personality can exist without a sense of self. Right? There's a externalized sense of uniqueness about me that I want you to, personality. Someone with a lot of personality has a uniqueness of them, but they want you to know how unique they are. I think that's a good way to put that, maybe. Uh, that it's not just that I am unique because I believe I am, I think I am, I act a little differently, these type of things. I smile when other people don't, or I make you smile, other people can't or won't, whatever. Um, just as examples, it's in the free will. Right? That's what makes a person different from someone else. That's what distinguishes one person from someone else. Uh, and yet, the the expression of personality is one of expanding uniqueness, where I'm it's not just that I have certain skills that no one else has, which is fine, but because I am better than others because of that, put me on a pedestal and let me dazzle you with my skills or whatever. I think, all right. So this is, I've stumbled through this, but this is one of those things that comes up in the pursuit for perfection. All right. We're not uh we're not how do I say this? I am not looking to be perfect, but I am looking for perfection. I think that's a good way to put it. But what they say in the program is it's not perfection, it's progress, or progress, not perfection. Of myself, I hold a 93% functional perfection, and I think that carries me through in most cases. All right, so this next area, the principles before personalities, uh, This is sort of the metaphysician's way of looking at a higher power, a god of a higher power that's not an acronym like I gave above, the god of the program, expanding out from from that the group of drunks theme. All right, there is a different. All right, I'll give you, and I think it's fair to say this is a little closer to how I view, much closer to how I view a God concept. And I've, since I was a teenager, actually, I've kind of had this concept of how this works. How did it come up? Well, I asked God, please show me the ultimate reality. And so soon after that, the idea of, what really happens out there kind of came up. Now, listen, you can lead a fine life without knowing any of this. And, like a lot of this may be beyond people. But let me just say this. Humans are embedded in the world of materialism, right? They're just ever so about the thing to fill the hole in the heart. What is that hole in the heart? What is sin? Sin is the absence of the voice of God, the word of God. It's the presence of God, the logos. That's what sin is. All right, hold on. How do I say this? Right, I'm a technician, right? First and foremost, I'm the etheric technician. I figure out I figure out how stuff works, maybe how it doesn't work, and then how to get it to work. Okay, my my place here as etheric technician is to help people understand some of these higher concepts that are really really foreign to people because there's been so much backsliding among the humans. They've just gone so far beyond where they should have been to be able to kind of understand this stuff. So a lot of unlearning has to happen and a lot of relearning has to happen as well. And so this is where we're at in things that, you may not feel you have to believe it or whatever, but there's definitely some people that need to know this because they're at that point of significantly breaking away from the herd of the rest of humans. They've done a lot of clearing work and they're ready for this. And as I said before, I can give you the basics of the Schumann resonances, and that's fine. But there are a lot of, and those are free, but there's a lot of higher understanding, advanced stuff that there are a few people that are ready for. Few things that people are ready for. So that's what this is. This is not a simple, and it can be. Some of the videos are a simple understanding, relatively simple understanding of the Schumann resonances, but the majority of my stuff is for the advanced students, the people who are ready to kind of move over to the next step. And that's hard to explain to people who aren't close to that. All right. So there's some principles. When I use the expression of the spiritual warrior, is the person who's been through his death and they know a lot more than the average person who hasn't gone anything close to that. Um, and they've worked through some pretty heavy stuff and they're ready for a different understanding of this stuff. I don't know. And a part of me thinks that if it was important enough for the church and the powers that be to suppress it and to not allow it, it's important enough for people to kind of know, learn. So anyway, all right. So you have, all right. So the principles before personalities plays out in this respect. You have God as the creator being, the prime source, which is the Hindus say Brahma, uh, which prime mover, the unmoved, the unspeakable, the impersonal, of principles inviolate. God does not violate his own principles. Um, Unable to be pursued. I'm sorry, say that. Unable to be persuaded through crafty argument or witty argumentation. Uh, it's what is in your heart that's seen. Your intention behind your intentions, your stated intention. That's what's seen. Your crafty argument, your thoughtful reasons why it is or isn't or shouldn't be cannot be persuaded. None of that matters. All right. So that's prime source, right? Brahm is, this is where the basis of math and science that's without a God can potentially come from, is that there is not personal personality running the show. Humans are one more form of life in all of the rest of everything else. Right? Millions, billions, gazillions, uncountable forms of life in all of this. All of them are equally as valuable to prime source. Right? It's just, you could look at it as an experiment. You could look at it as a school. Prime source doesn't care, right? It's just there as an expression of love for itself. It gives itself beings to play with. Like, all right, it seems pretty impersonal. That's, God the scientist, God the playwright. All right, so there's that impersonal part that we look at and say, well, God doesn't exist because blah, 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 blah. And it's the impersonal part that allows the, non-existence of God to exist. Then there is the logos, the argument, the creative, clever argument, which is the concubine of source, or the the facet of source that starts individuating itself out. There's a part of source that's never moved, never anything. It's just always there. Right? You don't know it. You couldn't know it. We can know it. It's unspeakable. Right? It's not. You're not able to tap into it as a human. We're so far away from human, you can't tap into it. There's only this spark of life that is within you that is able to connect to source, and that is done through through the logos, right? The concubine of source, the plaything of source, if you will, otherwise known as the divine utterance, the breath of life, or prana, which permeates all living things, that provides a personality of source. So, source itself, the one God, you're absolutely right. It's impersonal. It isn't a thing. It isn't God. The one God isn't God, because humans need a personality to interact with. That's why we anthropomorphize everything, so that we can, see, reflect ourselves in the vast void that's otherwise formless. The thoughts and thinking are of the mind. So the what we perceive is formless and thoughtless until we personalize it. Until we turn God into a being, which is allowed through the logos. And we do that in different ways, on different levels, through the etheric realm, which is where dreams reside. These are the phrases, the demiurge, the astral, the bardo, the lower and upper bardo. Who is it? The Buddhists, especially the Tibetans, they talk about the bardo, the upper and the lower bardo. This is essentially where the spirits reside, where your soul, your spirit goes after you pass on. It's hard to explain what what the bardo is. It's hard to explain this area, and not everyone is willing to accept this exists. All right. However, many people have seen demons. Many people have gotten visitations from family member. You know that they're still around. You know they exist, even though they passed on. You can hear, some people can hear voices in your head. Some people, there's that song by the Black Crows, She Talks to Angels. Okay. Um, what's his name? Uh, uh, Descartes, Rene Descartes, and his, this is hard to find in his memoirs, but he got his vision, his visitation on how to his information on how to the scientific method and all of that, the calculus and all of that. He got it from angelic guides, right? That's what he says. He got it in a vision, right? Kekule with the molecule, the benzene molecule. He saw the Ouroboros, you know, he saw, would you call the snake eating its tail? Would you call that sacred geometry? I don't know. It's an occult symbol. I don't know. Yeah, it is. Maybe it's used that way, but he got that vision of it. And that is a symbolic symbol, you know, like a universal symbol, the snake eating its tail, kind of like the phoenix is also a universal symbol of rebirth and blah blah blah. Um, so, uh, so in the demiurge, this is where a lot of spiritual stuff exists that people can tap into, and sometimes they tap into good, and sometimes they tap into bad. When people take psychedelics, they take mushrooms, they take acid as a recreation in a completely um, completely un, unfettered to uh, a process, to like a guide, just totally for recreation, you know, randomly at a festival or something, when people take heavy psychedelics or MDMA or whatever, all kinds of stuff, they wind up often meeting up with some being in the astral realm. Uh, there's more than enough stories of people who meet, and they give you pictures, they of drawings of all kinds of beings that people meet in hallucinatory states, in ecstatic states, in, you know, like psychotic states. It's just, there's too much evidence there. And hey, if you don't believe that there is evidence, write it in the comments, and I'll start giving you references of all the times that people, you know, have had like near death experiences, and they've contact, you know, their living relatives in the near, when people are near death at the end of their life, their relatives come pick them up. You know, there's, you know, if you haven't closed off your eyes, if you haven't closed off your ears, you will have heard stories of this, of of spiritual visitation, spiritual guests from the other side, of good and bad, both. And so, what makes the difference is in the mindset and the intention of the person looking to meet up with spirit guides. And there are spirit helpers and spirit allies. The spirit ally may kill you. The spirit helper will is like a positive experience, and it's going to, you know, be there at your guide, right? It's going to be there as your helper. Whereas the ally is a different animal, a different matter, right? You That's a more danger. You in a learning environment, the, you know, the ally will help you. But if you are not ready and you're not prepared, you go into it unprepared, the ally may kill you. That's on the warrior's pathway. All right. So when we go into these experiences, psychedelics, like I said, if you haven't prepared yourself mentally, if you haven't asked the good spirits to guide you and to be there with you and to help you out, if you haven't asked something from the astral to be there with you, and you're just taking this recreationally and you think it's all good, uh, you'll wind up anywhere. You're lost in the astral, and that's where people meet up with these horrible, beings that they run into, not necessarily because the substance itself was bad. That happens often enough. It's right. But even if it's a good substance and it's pure, that can be even worse a lot of times. Some of these heavy chemicals that are pure, like pure LSD, if you got that, you might lose your mind if you go into it unprepared. Um, and that's why a lot of people really should not do psychedelics because they don't know how to prepare and they don't know that they should, and they don't know that they're opening up their psychic channels to all the other entities who've ever taken it, whether they had good or bad intentions. And if you get a substance where a lot of people have taken it recreationally, that's the air of it. And it's like a big playground where you can meet up with a bully on the playground and you can meet up with people who are not there with your best intentions to have fun with you. They're there to have fun at your expense. That's basically a bully, someone who's convinced you they're bigger than you and that matters, and that they're there to have fun at your expense, and they're going to have fun at your expense. And if you don't know how to protect yourself from a spiritual bully, a dead entity that who took it and overdosed while they were taking it, they were in an awful state while they were alive. They took the substance, didn't know they were dead. They still don't know they're dead. They just think they're just that far out, that they're lost. Those are the things that you'll encounter if you go into it unprepared and unwittingly. And so, um, this is a whole discussion unto itself, but it's appropriate to bring this up and to um, to at least address it, to introduce this topic of the metaphysician's principle of the etheric realm, the demiurge, and the astral. Uh, there is a form of belief. There is a some type of belief that comes in here with this. Yet, however, this is the advanced class, and I'm not having the discussion of whether or not this exists by people who are just closed. That's kind of why I'm happy. I don't have a lot of people on my channel, and I don't monetize and get it all out there and all of that, so that I don't have to have these discussions with the newcomers who are just not of the sort of thinking this is a real thing. And the people whose opinions I care about are in agreement with me that yes, there is the astral that people travel over to in a number of ways, whether you dream, whether you do lucid dreaming, whether you have had a near-death experience, whether you have had a death experience and then come back, whether you've had a hallucinatory experience, whether you've had a daytime vision where it's the middle of the day, you're not about to dream, drift off to sleep. You're in the middle of the day and you see something in front of your eyes that's superimposed over on what you know to be the reality that you're in. So I call it a daytime vision. It's not a daydream. Daydream is when I fall asleep and dream when I'm, at my my desk at work, or I'm on the bus and I doze off. That's a daydream. A daytime vision, as I've heard people talk about this, and believe me, more and more people are going to be getting this, and it's going to freak them out, and it's all for the better, I think. And that is a little different from, or it is different from remote viewing. I think that's important to say. Remote viewing is a different experience where your spirit leaves your body, and you can see your spirit there. I mean, your spirit can see your body there, and your body sort of knows this is happening, but your life force goes elsewhere, or one of the levels of your life force goes elsewhere. Um, with the the daytime vision, it's like you would be standing there, you're at the bus stop, and you see something happen superimposed upon the scene that's going on. And a lot of people, it if you if it's the first time it's happened to you, it can make you lose your sanity. You don't know what's happening. You question your reality. You question your sanity. Um, Understandably so. Um, so people that do card readings, that do Ouija, there's all kinds of people. I don't think so much with crystals. Crystals are the elementals. It's different. Cards, tarot cards, um, scry. I'm trying to think of the different things that people use, different tools, different toys that people use. There's different types of cards, different types of divination methods, and those tap into different aspects, different parts of the um, the bardo, the astral. So you can get something in the lower astral, which is, it's like the same thing as third density, but it's a different, you know, resonance to it. They're beings from a different realm, uh, but they're still not. They don't. They're a lot of the motivations that you have in third density you can have in fourth dimension density, fifth dimensional density. There's service to self and service to others oriented. Uh, and self might be um my group, my small tribe of people. I'm going to benefit them at the expense of everyone else, right? Me, us first. So, and you are part of a group, your place in the group, and so you're willing to sacrifice whatever for that group. Um, and that's you can get that at any point in the chart. Lucifer was a very highly placed uh, angel, ungulate, who came here and then was corrupted, and now is a powerful worker on the dark side. It's like, so it turns, it can turn. This the veil of Maya is capable of turning even the best. And it says that in the book, that even the very elect themselves would be tested and tried during the last, the last days. And thank God they had been shortened, or no person would have survived. And that's the fact of the matter, that if the days had not been shortened, that the elect themselves would have a hard time making it through. So this realm of the etheric, the demiurge, this is where people tap into this realm, not, or they go and visit, not knowing much about it, not going to it ill prepared, unprepared, and winding up with problems as a result of it, because they're unprepared. And this is what I'm talking about. Is this area here, the demiurge, is where a lot of um, people, when they use, they uh, they do heavy hardcore drugs, they enter into the state of the etheric, into the demiurge, and attract negative entities, vampires that are feeding off of the energy of an addict. Um, and this is one of the dangers, one of the problems that people have when they go off into into these fugue states from not really living, not really dead, but they're this in between state where they're like a walking zombie, and that's where they're sort of living all the time in this the lower, their mind is in the lower astral. The body is here in 3D, but the mind can go anywhere, but it's going to the area of the lower bardo, the lower astral, where the negatively aligned invisible beings reside. And so when we imbibe in these very toxic chemicals that are nearly ending our lives, nearly killing us, that's that's where we go. That's what happens. It's where we end up, is in the lower astral, and bring them back with us, and they manifest in our lives through chaos and through broken broken relationships. They manifest the entities of the lower astral manifest in us living in squalor, us living in a dirty home, manifest in an infestation of cockroaches and bed bugs. The beings, these lower astral beings, manifest themselves in forms of chaos and forms of parasites and pestilence and negativity and and any number of things, you name it. But it's not that, like you say, oh, I don't see the negative. It's you a person who is residing in that, who brings back entities from there, can say, oh, I don't see it around me. They're in whatever state, they're blinded, they can't see it. The veil is very thick, and almost like a challenge. Oh, I don't see it. Like, point them out. And meanwhile, they live in a burned out tenement. They're alone. There's rats. There's all kinds of, roaches and parasites that live in with this person that they came in, ants or whatever, The ants aren't the problem. The roaches aren't the problem, but they kind of are, you know. Rats aren't the problem, but they kind of are. Um, especially if someone is saying, "Oh, I don't see anything wrong," and there's no electricity. Like these are, this is the manifestation of the lower astral. It is the opposite of that situation that I'm explaining here is the opposite of good orderly direction. There is in fact no orderly direction there. Nod. You're nodding off. That's sort of what that is. No orderly direction. Um, and so, again, this is the advanced class. This is for people who don't need convincing that when they go off on a run, they interact with, they uh, find these negative etheric beings that attach themselves and come back to manifest in all sorts of chaotic forms, including pestilences and all kinds of, parasites. To also include human parasites as well, right? Like, especially if you're, you can, yeah, you don't know what motivated a person to just suddenly come within your field. It's, it suddenly show up one day, you know. So this isn't a discussion for whether or not the demiurge or the fatal Bartol exists. This is a discussion for the people who know that that is a realm that exists, that is part of it is personality. This is a realm of personality, most definitely. And a lot of the beings that are in there have big personality and that attach themselves to other people with big personalities. All right. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a sec, take a inventory of where I'm at. Okay, I'm going to play some more music, I think. Um, the the website, I love that little feature it has in my blog that shows the time, anticipated time that it'll take you to read. It says 11 minutes, 11-minute read. No, I assure you, you have to double that. And then whatever it tells you, you double it and then add a zero to the end of it. And that's about how long it should take you to get through it, roughly. At least 10, even with the primer for the vocabulary. So this is a picture by Alex Gray, right? An illustration. I love Alex Gray's work. All right, so we're going to play some music here. See what we got before we move on. This is heavy stuff, I realize. So, I think it's important to kind of stop and slow down, give you guys a chance to digest it. And I think it's kind of fine. I'm speaking slowly. It's like 1:15 in the morning, and my brain isn't kind of working at slow speed. So I think that gives you a chance to kind of keep up with me. Is me moving in slow-mo mode, 33 RPM speed. All right, that's me jabbering. Okay, we're back. A pretty good mix. Pretty good mix. Mix them up. Thank you, Aaron. All right. So, where are we? Hello. Okay. So I'll just read a little more. It's like 1:20 in the morning, so I gotta be a little bit quiet, not speak loudly. All right. So, third density, 3D. Third density. I've talked about different difference between the dimensions and the densities before. Third density is the world of forms. Objects of Earth School. All right, so whatever the material thing, a cohesive material thing, coherent, cohesive, coherent object of Earth School gets defined through the physical geometry of the molecular characteristics. So what does that mean? So molecules have certain shapes to them, the geometry. There's a certain geometry, and in the chemistry books, they talk about the geometry of um, I don't think of the words. This isn't quite my area, but they have a description of uh, the um, the physical properties uh, based on the geometry of the molecule. Correct. So the physical world is shaped based on how things fit together, right? And these are the objects of Earth School. It is one of the how to manipulate the chemical reality around you is one of the first things we learn here in the Earth School. One of the first things we're supposed to encounter. I think the best way to put it. It is indeed an electromagnetic universe. Uh, these are two polarities of meditation. I've said this before. The DC circuit of meditation is I am at one with the activity of the moment. AC circuit of meditation is the request and answer circuit. So you request something, you ask from your higher power, something in the demiurge, if you will, and then it's waiting for a response. So it's a request and then a wait for a response. That's the AC circuit. Spiritual substance is of light. Intelligent light retains its form, where in its natural state it is formless. At its core, this is the particle side of formless potential impossibility. Okay, if you don't understand that, leave a comment for me in the below, and I will explain it better. This is something I mentioned before in other parts where I've talked about the thinking is the electric side activity of the brain. This is the electric side. I am able to channel this force through directed intention. The coherent wave is the magnetic side. This is what radiates or emanates from the heart center, literally. Yeah, the coherent. Like when I talk about the difference between the electric and the magnetic, is that the electric is like a flagpole. You know, it branches out when it comes down from the ionosphere, it branches out, and it looks more like a tree roots. Okay, but it's essentially from top to earth ground. Okay, using uh, the path of least resistance. So the the AC circuit, the magnetic side, is from the heart out laterally, right? Or even from the mouth out laterally from that. Okay. But as a cohesive wave. And this is the wave side. The electric is the particle side. The magnetic is the wave side. Um, what is form? What is form? And we're asking this from the, I guess, not from the metaphysical perspective, although I guess it kind of is a metaphysical question, but from the meditation perspective. Okay. Earth school chemical based form of ego mind. And so again, chemical based forms are the molecules, how everything is able to fit together and to create whatever shapes it does. The C state of humanity, this is the nature of forms. It's an intersection between the formlessness of dimensions and the constraints of density. The basis of chemical interactions allows for the existence of forms. At its core, geometries of these interactions create the densities, which is expressed as physical life. There are a myriad of forms based on geometries of the constituent elements. There exists a natural, sacred geometry that allows for some shapes to work well together and not others. The human physiology, the physical vessel, retains a certain shape based upon the 93% of genetics. This creates adjunct thought forms and persistent motion of the molecular oscillations. In other words, that your genetics shape not only what you look like and who you are, with your hobbies and interests and things you can do, but your genetics also carries memories of other people's lifetimes that's stored within your genes. And so it is entirely possible that those memories that are not yours to be triggered through through something in the environment. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion unless acted upon by an external force is considered a law of inertia. We accept this law to help explain the built-in forgetter. It is the inertia of my poor programming and the trauma in which I was forced to live. All the worst that was imposed upon me resonates to my core after a certain point. The external forces of the words and the damaging intentions creates a pattern. In other videos, I discuss harmonic oscillations where the genetic material starts oscillating in sympathetic vibrations with the atmosphere, either electromagnetically, subconsciously, or through the willful intentions of people improving their general surroundings. So as you start setting your intention, your oscillations vibrate either one way or another, and so people pick up on that from you. There is the native state of the chemical bonds that work together to create recognizable forms. Yet, these are largely suggestions until enacted upon by a more overwhelming force. Power of belief may be that greater force. All right. All right. So this is a good time to take a breath. Let's pause. I'm going to pause this and take a coffee. So that might be something you might want to do yourself. All right. I'll be back in a minute. Okay. 2:35:07. All right. Thank you for being here. I appreciate everyone. Breath. All right. The power of love may be that force. So, um, there are a number of external forces that you can use and whatever, but love itself is an intelligent force. And like I said, the um the care and sympathy that well, empathy that one addict has for another can also be, I guess, considered to be love. Acting, compassion is love in action. So, someone having compassion for another person is that's love in action, and that's a force. That's a power greater than themselves. It matters not the position of the knee, but the condition of the heart. What is the condition or the shape my heart is in? Has the inflicted damage shut the doorway to my heart so that it now won't open? Form of itself has no meaning without my intention. Yet, to make formless things no longer meaningless, it does not take much effort on the part of the observer. That I can have some meaning and purpose in my life shows that this existence on earth is not meaningless. Meaningless, hello, meaningless is not formlessness is not meaninglessness. Sorry. However, if it's formless, how would you know it exists? I may be deleting that in the next version. Meaning does not require a form. It merely, oh, I see. It merely requires an intention to do so. With intention, formless gathers its meaning. Meaning is subjective, susceptible to perspective. Okay? What is a form and what also a pose? Pose is short for posture. At all times, I should remain proper in my posture as a signal that I am ever vigilant at all times in all movements that I do. Proper posture is an integral part of occupying a healing form. For example, the form might be of a lion, yet there are numerous postures that fall within the auspices of being a lion. A posture itself is empty without remembering the correct form. Okay, good time to take another pause. Take a breath. I'm going to have another sip of coffee. Okay, we're back. Thank you for being here. I appreciate everyone and your love, your support, your kind thoughts, your kind actions. Thank you. Much appreciated. All right. What is the proper form for meditation? Question mark. Meditation itself is simply the first step or the key to the first doorway, perhaps. Meditation is simply mindfulness to the activity of or in the moment. This activity may simply be of monitoring the breathing. And I put in parentheses, meditation without remembering the reason why is an empty activity. Form itself is meaningless without intention. Intention of the form is manifest through proper posture. What is the proper posture for meditation when waiting for a response to our request? Meditation itself is simply mindfulness on what we're doing. In essence, this is being at attention to what we are involved in within any given moment. The activity of the moment may be simply to observe the breath. Activity in the moment may involve my obligations, commitment to others, such obligation may include retaining occupancy within the place that I call home. Some work and effort is involved in maintaining a roof over my physical vessel. So, Daddy's got to pay the rent somehow. When I chop wood, says the master, explaining how he became enlightened. When the form is chopping wood, there remains a clear posture necessary to maintain during this activity so that the one does not get hurt in the exercise of this task. As I become more at one with the activity in the moment, I start to feel the proper posture for the activity. Certain activities done in certain ways simply feel more natural. The way you hold the axe, there's definitely a way that a person should stand and should move if you're doing physical labor so you don't hurt yourself, or so that you are in control of the axe, for example, at the best, and yet once again don't hurt yourself. Um, so certain activities done in certain ways feel more natural. I achieved the desired outcome more easily, meaning that tree got chopped. While all meditational forms are exactly equal, it's likewise true that all activities have a proper form for the most efficient use of my resources. My thinking and mental stability may be one of those resources. Meditation, meditation itself is work. It is a spiritual principle. As such, it is an action word. With all paths being potentially equal, the practice of meditation is to reduce the excess work I do in maintaining a pathway with heart. Through this practice, we become at one with the heart of the activity. All right, so I'm just checking where we're at here. Alrighty, I'm going to pause this. Okay, I'm back. It was 2+ o'clock in the morning when I was here last. I needed to go to bed, among other things. It's 2 in the morning. Even though I'm not speaking loudly, there's no insulation on the ceiling. Okay, it's an old house. It's now 8:47 the next day, a.m. And I'm back. I got to get through this because the OBS system is on and it's taken over my computer, so I get to finish this. It's been a few minutes, so I think I'll put some music on and kind of get reoriented, if that's all right with everyone. All right, I got something in the background. All right, there we are. All right, so I'm going to play this to get reoriented. Have yourself some coffee. If you're like me, it's like 9 in the morning the next day. I'm going to be premiering this, though, so this is all going to run whenever. All right, so get some coffee. I'll be with you in a minute. All right. Okay, I'm back. The mix is going to get good at that point. I'm going to save that for the next portion. I put a little star next to it. All right. All right. So, I had to stop reading. I was trying to get through it, and I'm like, no, I got to stop. All right. So, onward and upward. All right. That looks good. I'm recording. The light's going. There's volume for the mics. All right. There's a lot of moving parts to get these things to work. Holy crap. All right. So back to the text. And I'm grateful when it all works and when it all does what it's supposed to. I try not to be angry when it doesn't do what it's supposed to, and frustrated and angry when it doesn't do what it's supposed to, because it's really not supposed to do what it's supposed to do what it does. Defies the laws of nature. Uh, Capturing sound. So when it does work, I'm grateful. And I'm grateful for the people who, were able to help me, get new equipment that is going to last and last. Alex was very impressed at the way I took care of my equipment. He remarked it a few times, and it's like, you know what? I worked for it. It took me a lot, of effort to get it, and I was thoughtful about what equipment that I got when I got it, and even when I was out there at the pawn shop or whatever, looking very specifically for certain things, it's taken me a lot to earn it, so I want to preserve my things the best I can. I haven't always been that way, but I don't want damage to my stuff to be caused by me and my own negligence. It's an effort of being mindful to what I possess, and I don't want to possess things I'm not mindful of. That's really important. That's been an important thing for me at this point of clearing out the ballast and the musty, the dusty, the rusty, the broken, the busted, the things I'm not using, haven't used in a year. If I'm blowing dust off it and I haven't used it in a year, then unless the bicycles, there's ones I haven't used in over a year, but that's different. I'm planning on fixing those, and they're inherently worth money, and so that's, it's like money in the bank. All right, so I'm dusting off my bicycles, but those are inherently worth something. I guess you'd say that about everything. It's inherently worth something, but bicycles are actually retaining their value. So, considering I got them for free and I could sell any one of them for $100, as is, most of them are working anyway. Um, so, so ballast is accumulated material items that may be inherently worth something. Ballast is worth something's ballast. Dead weight. Ballast is essentially dead weight that a ship uses to keep it from, being top heavy. Right? So you have the keel. All ships have a keel, which is like the backbone. That in itself is heavy. That keeps the weight, the center of gravity down. But in a lot of tankers, these modern ships, it's kind of a little top heavy because they have stuff in the top. So they have ballast in the hold to keep a ship, in the water and not flopping over. They hold so much weight for themselves, but then when added cargo, there's added weight of cargo on top of that. You need to keep it down in the water. But lower. Right? It's not, it being top heavy is putting more weight on it, yes. However, the weight needs to be below the sea line, the water line, for it to be the most effective. And ballast will a lot of times be used to help right it, keep it balanced. That's one of the duties of ballast, keep it weighted between the left and the right and between the fore and aft, the front and the back of the ship. So ballast itself, being dead weight, serves a purpose. But that's on the ship. Outside of that, it would be, scrap or something else. It's not worth anything inherently off of the ship. And so the same thing applies to you in your life of the ballast of your life, the stuff that's valuable to you, but it isn't necessarily worth anything to anyone else because it doesn't do anything practically speaking. It's yours, you can have it, but if called upon having to get rid of something, if you have to downsize, for example, you have to move to a smaller place, for example, what are you holding on to? And ballast is the things that we don't want to get rid of. They're worth something, a lot of it's sentimental to us. Um, and so as we're going through the process, this transformation process, it's important as you start figuring out what to get rid of, what to lose your hold of, release your hold of. Um, then it becomes a matter of a person like figuring out what is really truly meaningful to me, what has meaning, what's meaningful to me, and what might actually have meaning to someone else if you get rid of it. Especially if you've had someone over recently that has commented on something. Oh, they like it, but you haven't used it in a while. Maybe it's time to give up that ballast to someone who could use it and appreciate it. Something to consider. If you're not taught, if your name is not King Tutankhamen, King Tut, they're not going to be burying you with all of your stuff. Just remember that. If you're not an Egyptian king, they're not going to be burying you with all of your stuff. Just remember that. Even in my case, I love bicycles, but they're not burying me with a bicycle. Willie the Wimp, he had a Cadillac coffin. That's about as close as you're gonna get. He paid a big plot. Let's say Stevie Ray Vaughan song, Willie the Wimp and his Cadillac coffin. I should maybe find that and play that. Maybe not. I don't know. But Willie the Wimp and his Cadillac coffin. So he got buried. He loved his Cadillac. Um, Elvis, did he? I mean, what did he get buried in? A suit? I don't think he buried him with his Cadillac. So just I'm giving you some analogies to think about. Death is your advisor. What are they burying you with? Nothing, probably nothing. And if you get buried with a good suit and you go seeing God in a great looking suit, that's more than maybe you could ask for in your funerary rites. So the point is, don't accumulate stuff that you can't readily use. If you've become a collector of things, it's time to consider what you're collecting and why, and all of this type stuff. People have a tendency to want to surround themselves with their stuff, and it's great. But I wonder if maybe half the time, if not more, a collection isn't just glorified hoarding. People with a collection of cars. Ooh, these great cars. Like, yeah, all right, they're great. Never use them. Maybe take them out once in a while. Any other collection is like that. Shoes, whatever. All these material goods that people have as collection, as an identity of themselves. Unless they're things that maybe you found, I don't know. Like I used to collect hubcaps. Uh, you know, I I I don't have a wall to hang up hubcaps now. They're metal. That was when I was 8. I love hubcaps. But things are changing. I don't even have a place. I have hats, a collection of hats that were provided by Mr. Scrappy Doo, but I don't even have a place to uh, display those. And even if I did, I've lost a bunch of them or have given them up, washed them and given them up. So things change. And when I talk about ballast, I'm talking about the things we accumulate, multiple things we accumulate, which are not doing us any good. They're not tools we use for anything. They're not something that, you're going to need or may use in the future. So these are all things to think about. All right. I forgot where I was exactly, but let me get back to the text. All right. So the mood the koan goes this way, that there's a monk, and they don't attribute any one monk to this, as far as I know. There is a monk who is sitting meditating under a tree, and he had just gotten done work or something, and he's sitting there resting. So the students come up to him and ask, Master, how do how do how does one become enlightened? The master says, when I became enlightened by, chopping wood when I have to chop wood. When I have to wash dishes, I wash the dishes. When I go to stool, I go to stool. And the students kind of looked at themselves quizzically, and they looked at him and kind of laughed, and they said, well, Master, we do that. He says, no, you don't. It says it's time to cut wood, you're thinking of what you're going to be eating later that day. When you're carrying water, you think of what you were talking about with someone last night. When you go to stool, your mind has wandered off into maybe the next life, or what you're going to be, or a past life. And so the students left a bit crestfallen because they did not get the answer that they were looking for. So the master tells us, when I chop wood to gain enlightenment. That is my standard. That's my standard of operation. And so he is talking about being mindful in everything that you do. There is no special thing that you do that's going to bring enlightenment outside of paying attention to the one thing you are doing right there in the moment. In my meditational practices, I eliminate actions which are not conducive to chopping wood, in addition to all thoughts which do not support the proper form of chopping wood. There is, I forget, I think it was Michelangelo, I'll attribute this to him, had said, they asked him, how do you make such wonderful statues? How what's your process? How did you make the statue David, which is held as one of the most perfect examples of form, of the human form, or at least of a young man's form that there had ever been in sculpture to that point. And he says, you look at the marble and then chip away everything that's not David. So the most perfect form that you would make is created from chipping away everything that is not the perfect form. Okay. Those Greeks knew some stuff. Except he wasn't Greek. He was a medieval time, but he was a Renaissance, part of the Renaissance man, and so he knew some stuff. So his words were true then, they're true now. You chip away that which is not the perfection you are seeking. And it's the simplest way to put that. Right. So that, what we just said, is the direct connection of mind to attention. And by attention, we also mean the mastery of the medium. And if your medium is marble, there's probably going to be some number of years of attention to what you're doing, to the meditation on the form, in order for you to carve out a David. Let me find David, if I could, actually, giving you this as an example. Okay, so that is the statue of the David by Michelangelo. And he was asked, again, I'm attributing it to Michelangelo, but it may not have been him. It may have actually been Leonardo da Vinci who said it, however, who did sculpture, but I'm pretty sure it was Michelangelo, bing, who had said, how I made this was I chipped away, I just carved away everything that was not the statue, the form that I was looking for. There is a mastery of the medium, regardless of whatever you think of it. Like that is someone who did a sculpture in marble of that. That's pretty fucking impressive, quite honestly. Back to the text. Note to self: avoid cuss words when possible. Okay. All right. So that what I was just talking about, the ability to connect with what you're doing, to to, for example, create using your imagination, picturing a form that you're looking for, and to be able to have control and mastery of the medium, the attention to what you're doing with not only the tools themselves, but also what the tools are doing. Like there's two steps there, not only controlling the tool, but also controlling the tool in such a way you create this masterpiece. There's multiple meanings, multiple moving parts to getting this all to work, of your mental acuity, of your mental attention. And so that attention to what you're doing that allows you to not only complete the topic, but to complete it at the mastery level, that requires a full direct connection to what you're doing right there in the moment. That is what we call the DC circuit, heart and mind at coherence, in coordination with your hand movements, which is another level of physical level of manipulation at the most basic level, which is ultimately why we're here experiencing this, and what this experience is about, of the physical manipulation of the material of the planet, essentially. So this is our first dimensional density, being at one with the action and the form. This is the type of grounding process. This dedication to purpose is necessary for the next step, prayer and meditation as a cohesive practice. Okay, so up to this point, I've just been kind of talking about meditation. Some of this is a review, but I've just been focusing on the meditation itself, which is all of this. This is a review of meditation, but this is all some new stuff. This is put in different context, okay? So even if you saw the first part and you're like, oh yeah, you haven't gotten into the prayer meditation part, it's like, don't worry, there's still some new stuff here for you. And especially this is all presented in a context of this, what I just said there is necessary for this part here. And meditation, I gotta respell that. I didn't spell it right. Typo. Meditation as a cohesive practice. So the important part, I think, to take away from the mindfulness is that it's a focus on the form at hand. So that is the direct connection, the DC connection, is attention to, like a magnetic link to the thing you're focusing on at the time, right? What's needed at that particular moment. And sometimes moments can overlap one another, and you're stuck through no fault of your own, having to attend to multiple moments simultaneously. Especially if you have a family and you have others who depend on you for one thing or another, then one is likely to have multiple overlapping moments that happen. Right? And so these multiple overlapping moments become resonances that vibrate a person's day, that act like ballast of a sort, that keep you kind of held down. That's what the Schumann resonances are. They're a type of electromagnetic, ballast isn't the good word there. It's a gravity. I've called it gravity. The gravity works there. So mindfulness to what you're doing right there in the moment is the original, the DC circuit of concentration, of of meditation, of consciousness. All right, so prayer and meditation is what I refer to as the AC circuit, or the wave function, which is essentially traveling between two separate poles, between, say, me and you. Prayer and meditation is a dedicated spiritual practice. At its essence, it is a request along with waiting for an answer. So there's an interaction between me asking and then me waiting. Okay. There are requests that I make for myself. There are requests I make of myself to address my shortcomings with a higher power of my choice. Shortcomings are character defects which stand in the way of my connection to God and others. My heart becomes the doorway or passageway which delivers my request before the seat of the grand needs meter. What is the state or the condition of my heart? Prayer, which does not require a resolution, is meditation. Contact with the grand needs meter that is keeping the channel clear is meditation. All right. So, and again, this is just my interpretation. This is my opinion. We all are free to see things as we want to see them, and I have to remember that. If someone who disagrees with me doesn't mean I'm wrong and or they're more right or whatever. Just they can't see what I'm saying, and that's fine. There's different ways to look at prayer, and so that's kind of where we're at. That there's different ways to look at meditation, but there's different ways to look at prayer as well. There is a form of a prayer that you don't necessarily need an answer to or a resolution to, but you're simply looking to keep the channels clear. That is under the category of meditation. Contact with the grand needs meter that is keeping the channel clear is meditation. So just simply maintaining a contact with your higher power and not asking for, or not having a problem that needs resolving, I think that's a good way to look at it, but just, talking is a form of meditation. Right? So in amongst all the other thing that you would do, the meditation, the chopping wood meditation, right? And doing all of that, the whatever needs to be done task, whatever task needs to be done form of meditation, attention to the form of that task. Aside from this, there is also a meditation that is a prayer, a constant running dialogue with your higher power, with the grand needs meter. That is not you asking for anything, but just a running dialogue. I'm just saying I'm here, I appreciate what you're doing. It's not a passive thing. You are saying, I appreciate what you've done for me. Thank you, essentially. Right? Thank you for what you've done. And you're going through that which has already been done. Right? You're not asking for anything, but this is a review of what has been done for you. This is something that I believe is a part of this process as well, that when something has been provided and done for you, it's important to thank the grand needs meter, right? The universe, for helping you. I think it's a really super important part to getting this to work for you every time, is to be grateful for what you've received. And if you haven't received what you thought you should get, you can voice it to the universe and say that what I got for this really sucked. Can you explain this to me? For my request, what was given in response to my request really truly sucked. Can you explain to me blah, 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 blah? It'll be answered in a way that's much nicer than what a human would not answer you to. All right, so that might be called a prayer of thanksgiving. Okay, It's a form of meditation on being grateful. Um, so, on that cheery note, I'm at the last section. We're at 3 hours, 13 minutes into it. All right, so let me play a little more music and we'll do this last section and then the video will be done. And you can get back to what you otherwise would have been doing had we not premiered this. Okay, this is a good mix coming up. I get a star next to it. All right, so I'm gonna make this be a coffee break length, a smoke break length. So I'll meet you back on the other side. Ooh, turn it up. Okay, we're gonna save that because that's almost at the end of that mix, like 6 minutes left. So I think I'm gonna finish reading and then I'm gonna play the rest of the mix and then let that be the end of the video. Um, so this, I love this illustration. It gives you a kind of idea of how to look at your different forms. People, we talk about, oh, what ascension and what, you're going on, what that means, and your different light bodies and all of that. You see how these forms, right? It's giving you the first, hold on, actually. Hold, please. All right. So you see how it's giving you, one to these layers, basically, the layers of the onion, going from the outside in. So the physical and etheric body is this first one here, all right, the most physical of you, and then there's the emotional astral body, all right, and then you see these layers here, all right, two, and then you have this one here is three, and you have this one here is four. So the Buddhic causal body is all the way out here to the fourth one. You see this, right? So 4 layers of you contain what look like you. I don't know how to explain that better than that, but let me put it this way. If a person were to pass away and their form of their image comes up as a spirit, right? The life force. Okay. Now, again, we're getting past the point of you thinking or whether or not you think there's a life force or any of that. We've already gone through that. All right. So the life force of a person as they die, immediately as they die, looks a lot like, if you could see it, were you able to see it, looks a lot like the person in their physical form. There are people who, like your relatives, returning upon your imminent demise to take you home. They appear in the form you've always known them as. People who've had near-death experiences who talk about their relatives there, the doctors, it's always in a way that's recognizable as them clearly, all right? It's their image. However, right, that's one of the layers here that we're talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to cancel. All right. So when we talk about the different layers of you, the different layers of the onion that makes you you, there are successive layers that go out that are less representative of you based on your genetic code, the ghost within the DNA. There's a movie, I don't even know what the director's name is, but Ghost in the Shell. That was an anime. They remade it with Charlize Theron, I think. Ghost in the Michelle. I forgot. Ghost in the Shell. I forgot who they had as the main character. But that's sort of, like, that's what, human, the human vessel is the shell, but it's an intelligent vessel as well. So the life force of the intelligent vessel that's had the form of this based on your genetics, these bodies of a person resemble the magnetic form that we take on this planet. So as you start getting out in these in these bodies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 4, you start seeing the different form that's very closely related to the physical form that you have. And then as you start getting up, the 5, 6, the monadic body, you see the form is different, and then you start seeing here, it's just a light. It's an envelope of, it's a egg, a luminous egg. You no longer see the shape that you were with the detail, your face and all of that, your physical, formation, your form, your physical form. That when you are released from the body, depending on your attachment to that physical form, your spirit is going to take on or resemble that, it's going to oscillate with the form that it remembers. It, if it is a long time earth soul, it's going to want to have a form again. It's going to want to resemble a form, some form, and especially the last form that you were familiar with, it's going to want to assemble as that form. And so that's what this is showing you, is that as you get out, and I know this to be true. I know this to be true. And so as we start getting out into the formless, we're now talking about, here, they're matching this up. So what they're matching up these ding, 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 ding here all the way up. So when we talk about the monadic blueprint, right, this here, 9. So like the 9th kind of, you could call it dimension if you want. I think that's a good way to look at this. 9th dimensional density, okay? That you start looking here, the Maya Varupta body, okay, the monadic blueprint, the Maya Varupta body. Okay, this is where you start getting into the formlessness of the spirit, that there is no form, that it is of the nature of light, of formlessness. Okay, but you if you're not from there, coming down, right? A lot of the visitors that are here, the ones who truly want to leave, the people who want to leave the most and go home, the ones who've come down, realize how much of a trap this is here. I don't know how to better put it. How you're without your memories, you're without your whatever, and you're stuck here in this form. So the people coming down from that form, they're formless, were originally formless, and now they're living in a form, and this is extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to have to live in a form if you're not used to living in a form, and you can just kind of produce a visual representation of colors. You don't need a form if there's some other way to recognize you. It's special light that's yours, special type of light, right? You would know someone if not for their facial features and they were just light, by the way that light made you feel, and the beautiful quality of the timbre of that light. That is what you would otherwise have if you didn't have a body of forms. And when I talk about my original body, I'm talking about this egg out here that's luminous. It's not a physical form like this. It's painful to have to come into this form, this body. However, if you've been here a long time, you don't think of anything else. Well, what other form? How could you live otherwise? What other? How else? What? I don't get it. You absolutely do not understand how you could live and exist as a beam of light, as a sphere of light, outside of a form. If you didn't have this form, you're baffled. How would you be able to exist? You couldn't live as a orb of light. And yeah, you could. I did. I was. Those are my people, right? Before here, living in this tortured, painful form, I was a formless beam of intelligent light. And when I go back, that's what I will be, but with magical skills and abilities, where you'll think I'm here. You'll believe I'm here because I'll have a form that produces feelings in you. Right? So this is what's waiting. You have all of these, and this is just an approximation. It goes much higher than that. But this is giving you the 22 light bodies that we all contain. But some of these are so far higher up that you're not able to connect with them because you're still stuck in the world of forms here, right? So if your mind is on the world of forms and all of this, the form, right? You're living in the world of forms, and you can go up to a certain point, but that becomes right here. This break off here is where we talk about. That's where the astral begins, the lower astral, right here at this break off from what you can see, what is formed, the formed. It's what otherwise invisible to you. It exists. It's there. It exists in intention. It exists in consciousness, but not in form. It exists in all meaning, but zero form. Right? So that's where it starts here, getting at the maya vora, which is like, I don't, these aren't dimensions, these aren't densities, but you can kind of think of them that way. Going from the Earth itself right now, just as it is six-dimensional density, three time, three space. You have quantum, you just because you don't know how to use it or you don't know what it is or know what it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Just because you don't know what it is or you don't know how to use it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and someone else doesn't know that someone else wouldn't know what it's for, or what it's used for, or whatever it is. All right, we got to get on with this. I'm already at about the length of the other video. This one may be a legitimate 4 hours. All right. So I still got the end of the mix to play. There's still 6 minutes of the Aronmix left to play. Like we got to get shit happening. Get stuff happening. Hopping and happening. All right. Meditation is a prayer for myself as a recipient. That's what they showed me. That's what my guides revealed to me. A prayer where you're asking for something that doesn't, you're asking something that doesn't necessarily need to be resolved, but it needs to be fixed. My character defects, they do need to be resolved. You're not asking for someone else. I don't know how to do it. I'm leaving it in your hands, right? That's a type of prayer that you've resolved. I'm not going to get an answer to this. I'm just giving it over to your care. It's always going to be a problem, but I don't want to have it as a problem. I don't want to have it as an obstruction to my life. I'm handing it over to you. So this is a meditation, handing it over meditation. But it is also a prayer for the person. It's a prayer for me to get better. Meditation on what I need to do to fix myself, fix my problems, if you will. I'm may not be perfect, but I'm working toward being perfected. I think that's the way I'm looking at it. All right. And so if we look at meditation itself as a healing act, then prayer is requesting. So I am requesting for myself in such a way that I am asking for healing for myself. Meditation itself requires no specific form, yet the work we do for meditation comes down to, I spelled it wrong, come down to the extraneous effort. Meditation itself requires no specific form, yet the work we do for meditation, cores down, no, that was the right word, cores down the extraneous effort. So by me being mindful to what I'm doing, and I meditate on what I'm doing, staying attentive at the moment, then that cores down all the extraneous work that I have to do. Which posture is most conducive towards strengthening my clear channel with the grand needs meter? Question mark. So in other words, what posture should I be in that is the most conducive toward keeping my channel clear with the grand needs meter? Right? That's yoga is the practice of many forms. You're doing many forms for various or toward the purpose of aligning yourself and correcting different issues of the body, of yourself. All right. The activity of the moment is to listen properly for an answer. And you have these different yoga classes. And part of what the work of yoga is listening for an answer of yourself, within yourself. It may not necessarily be, the root word of yoga is yoke. So you're yoking yourself to assumedly a power greater than yourself. You have to believe that there is a power greater than yourself. One of those uh, powers, one of those forces, may be the group itself, as we've gone through. So in yoga meditation, you may not believe in a higher power itself, but you are following along with the wisdom of the group, the higher power. The group is your higher power, and you are following along with the forms, the various postures that are presented, believing that the group is wise, the group is right, and if you follow along with what everyone else is doing, you will have some type of answer, some type of enlightenment, some type of answer in your physical person. Right? Yoga and the practice of all these different forms it's a listening, right? You're listening to your higher self, but ultimately you're trying to get to the root of your physical ailments in many cases, and that physical ailment could be uh, problems held within your DNA, your genetic lineage that is not yours necessarily to hold on to. It wasn't something perpetrated by you, but by someone in your family you're holding on to, like these kind of things. Or it could be perhaps for a release of trauma you've had in this life that you need to work through. Right. So, so in the meditational form, you're listening for an answer. You're listening from your higher self, or listening to you internally for your body itself, healing that you're getting for what you're looking for, hopefully. And so holding the form is you listening for an answer to, your lower back problem. I do stretching because I sit a lot, but I am feeling old. My bones and my joints and things hurt. So as I stretch, it's not quite a yoga, it's not quite Tai Chi, but as I am taking in the elements around me and being at one with everything, and I'm feeling the force of the earth moving through me and all of these wonderful things. I my body is reacting by releasing the pain on my joints and whatever. And so I'm listening to my body. So, the world of yoga forms, of postures, all these different postures in a class like this, is the intention of a prayer to your body, right? You're treating your body as a valuable asset. You're treating it as an intelligent instrument, as a vessel, with an intelligence of itself that needs to be addressed in certain forms. We are told that the voice, shift gears, we're told that the voice that we need to listen to is a still, small one, which stands at the door of our heart. This still, small voice is that which we are attempting to tune into. So the brain, I've said this before, and Rupert Sheldrake loves saying this, the brain is a better tuner. It's a tuner, and it's not necessarily a computer. So we are directed to listen for the still, small voice that is standing at the doorway of the heart, it tells us. What is the correct posture to be in to best support the task of listening in an otherwise noisy environment? While the position itself is equal, certain work requires certain postures. For listener meditation, perhaps a seated posture might be the best. We monitor our breathing in all things that we do at all times. This is our body's way of signaling to us what our emotional form of readiness is. Um, so my breathing is a monitor. Me watching my breathing is a monitor for how I'm doing emotionally, mentally, that I'm not able to kind of put into physical, the physical, speaking, especially speaking, writing about, or whatever. So my breathing, I may be at a state of anxiety, not realize it until I'm like ready to run. All right. So that's what the breathing, monitoring the breathing, helps me to do, is to watch my emotional state. If I accept a grand needs meter as a personal deity, such as a Jesus, are we naturally accepting it inevitable that I would need to be on my knees to properly request from the seat of the divine? To me, the natural inclination is to follow the example of Jesus. So if you read in the Bible where it said Jesus kneeled, and there you go. But I would pretty much think in all these wisdom traditions, if you're a Hare Krishna, there's a set way that each of these denominations do. So if you need a personal savior religion, if your version of the grand needs meter is a personality like Jesus, yeah, you have to go by the text. But who's there's so many different variants of the Jesus-based faith that you you'd have to ask Jesus himself what he did. But anyway, you go by whatever the tradition is. In My thought is, it seems to us, however, that the tradition of kneeling in supplication to prayer is a tradition based on church lore of making you uh, vulnerable. What's the word? Of having you in a position of submission. Okay. Um, then maybe so. It isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you are asking humbly, right? You're asking, and so it's not a bad thing to go on your knees, all right? However, there are some people that don't want to be on their knees, and I can't blame them. My knees hurt. I don't know what the benefit of that particular form is in requesting something. You don't have to be groveling to ask something. We're told you have not because you ask not. It doesn't say, you don't have it because you're not in groveling despair. It just says you need to ask. So the principle is, if you want something, you got to ask for it. But you need to be mindful of what you're asking. So therein is the important thing. You need to be, when you're asking and requesting, you need to be in a form that best reflects what I'm asking for, what I'm looking for. And especially if you're going to be given, assuming you're knowing, you're going to be given some instruction, something you need to do on your part, you need to be at a position of readiness for that. All right. The form and posture of prayer and meditation that are the most effective are those which allow the person to obtain a clear connection to this greater power. For example, one cannot cut wood as an attentive activity, yet also be attentive to being an active listener for a reply for a request put before the needs meter of the intelligent universe. The immediate direct attention to the task or object at the moment has been lost. The initial DC circuit has been broken. So I'm either paying attention to the thing I'm doing, to chopping wood, or I'm requesting, I'm engaging in prayer and meditation on behalf of someone else, or in behalf of fixing a flaw of mine that's getting in the way of my direct connection. So what are the forms I'm engaging in that are, what are the forms that I'm engaging in? And how are those allowing me, or disallowing me, to do the task at hand? And if the task at hand is praying for someone that you care about, um, all right, you need to attend to that task and not cut wood. Right? Or if you are concerned about the person, give a prayer of thanksgiving that your higher power is working in that person's life, and give it over, hand it over, and get back to the task at hand, which may be washing dishes, or it may be chopping wood, or it may be going to stool, or it may be doing your laundry, or whatever, attending to the kids, all right? And it's important to know that you have been heard. So it's not a bad thing, or it's not out of the course of reason for you to ask for confirmation that your request has been heard and is being acted upon by the whatever proper authorities act on our request. If I have requested assistance from the GNM, Grand Needs Meter, I need to be present and attentive and waiting for my reply. My form needs to reflect one of readiness for the task at hand. So if I've asked for something, I need to be in a posture that reflects I'm ready to receive an answer from you, right? So if I'm doing something else, if I've made a request and I need an answer, what do I need to do? Unless it's an emergency or something else, right? All right, life happens, all right. But you need to plan out such a thing in such a way that you're going to intentionally stick to the task of waiting, the listening meditation. It's important to schedule that in to your activity. the waiting for a response. And sometimes, I will say this, you may not get frequently, often, you may not get the response you thought, but you'll get a response, right? I'll just say this. It may not be what you were looking for, what you thought you were going to get, but you'll get something. Something will come to you. That's why it's important to organize it. Keep yourself organized in such a way that you have like a notepad, right? Proper posture in this case would seem to indicate showing up ready to take notes. Okay? When we have asked for assistance, there will always be a reply with the proper work that we need to do. It's important to keep track of revelations as soon as we get them. All right. And there are people who, I'll say this, something that I know to be true myself, that I've heard from other people say this. They have received visitations from animal messengers. It's happened to me. I've gotten responses to requests that I've made from birds who are circling around me and did certain things that were like, what the fuck? And then it's like, oh, okay, well, that was my message. Oh, all right. Yeah. They've brought you something. So it's important to know that when we're receiving guidance from somewhere around us, that may be from an animal, that may be from a stone you find, that happens. Just all kinds of things, all kinds of ways. Like, but it's important to when these things start popping up, to keep track of them and start logging them. The time, the date, where you were, what it was, and what you're taking this to mean. Right? It may not mean anything to anyone else, but as you meditate on the thing the rock you found that looked curious, tell me, and you ask it, tell me your story. What do you have for me? Because I like something about you is standing out. Please tell me, please explain. When it tells you, it's good to write it down. That way you can reflect later on what's the story. All right. So I think that brings us to the end of this lesson, the end of this video, the learning portion anyway. I'm going to play some music and kind of scoot us out of here. So this was a long one. This was almost the first one was 3.5, and this is almost 4 hours. So that's almost 8 hours of. It's closer to 8 than it is 7. It'll be when I'm done. And so this is if you listen to an hour a day. That's an hour every 7. So you can listen to if you listen to an hour a day over 7 days, you'll have uh, gone through all this material. Um, my videos are not for there's people that are new here and newcomers, but the videos are not for the newcomers. This is where I'm at. I need to present the advanced stuff. Otherwise, I'm going crazy. If I stick with the infants and the kindergartners, I'm just kill me now. So on that on that cheery note, thank y'all for being here. I appreciate all the love, the support I get from everyone. Thank you for my Patreons. Thank you for the people who the PayPalers and those who do well, to help me out, do well by me. And if you didn't understand something, ask me in the comments. If you liked, something, if you got something out of it, please leave me comments. Let me know that someone is getting something out of this. This is this is the advanced class. I know my guys remind me not everyone is blah 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 is not going to get a lot of views and blah, whatever. But I need to know someone out there has got something from this. All right. So on that cheery note, we're going to play some music now, I think. Indeed we are. All right, so I'll see you on the other side of this. this thing has like one more minute left. So, on that cheery note, have a great rest of your night. I appreciate everyone for being here. Much love. I don't know if I had a joke of the day today. Anyway, have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.